Welcome back, everybody, to another Transcontinental Party Pace pod. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Nolan, out in California. How's weather over there?
Pretty good. It's a little chilly, but it's sunny, so can't really complain.
Yeah. So today we are going to talk about bike regrets, our own personal bike regrets, and hopefully you guys will share some of the things that you purchased, maybe bikes that didn't quite work out, components that didn't work out. Leave those in the comments below. But before we hop into the main topic, let's do a little bit of catching up. Nolan, what's been going on your channel?
Not too much. I've been kind of struggling lately to find the time to get a video out weekly. I feel like I always go in phases, right? I've got a bunch stacked up, and sometimes I can plow through them very smooth, very easy. Other times I just get caught up on one or two, and then those hold everything else up. So it's been a little tricky the past couple of weeks, but I think I have a plan moving forward, so should be on track. How about you?
Yeah. Kind of the same. I banged out a couple bike reviews. I'm going to do some videos around racks and panniers and talk about rack packing. It's the next big thing. Because I've tried to give bike packing a go, but I think in my heart of hearts, it just doesn't suit my style of bike travel. You know, it's just so like minimalist, and I'm not a minimalist.
So you like to credit card pack then, if you do anything?
Well, yeah, but not, like I like to bring hobbies when I go on a bike trip, like ping pong paddles, like a small art kit, and that doesn't really work in a bike packing in a bike packing rig, as the kids like to say.
Your rig, your hog.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing to me is like bike packing, that style of packing for your bike evolved out of basically race bike touring off road, and somehow it's become kind of the de facto form of travel. And for me, it just doesn't work.
It's like packing for a trip. You're trying to get the bag weight under the maximum or something.
Yeah, I'm not that person.
We can get some lightweight. See if they make some carbon fiber paddles, maybe, and ping pong balls. There's
ping pong balls
weight.
Are light. Yeah, they do make I don't know how deep you want to go into ping pong, but they do they do make ping pong paddles with because they're different layers of wood, which gives the paddle different properties, and some of them are infused with a carbon fiber layer, just for a little bit more snap in the return.
Maximum stiffness.
There you go. Yeah. Laterally stiff but vertically compliant ping pong paddle.
with the supple, how supple are the rubber coatings on the outside?
That's true. Yeah. I was at the decathlon recently, and they had miniature ping pong paddles. They were still like shaped and had rubber on them, but they were just about half the size. And I think I'm going to buy a pair on the Lark just to bring around on the bike.
Play on like a tiny table, coffee table ping pong.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about bike news. That's kind of in the theme of regrets. There was a whole helmet gate thing going on. Yeah. I only saw pictures of that. What was the issue?
There's no issue. I mean, the issue is that it looks ridiculous, and the memes are pretty good. I mean, the best one is that there's a side by side of the jumbo. It's not jumbo anymore. The Visma something a bike. I don't know.
You gotta love cycling. All the teams change their names like every season. It's the worst professional sport ever.
This is a photo of the guy, like head-on photo next to Rick Moranis from Spaceballs with the giant Darth Vader helmet. They pretty much look the same. Like they look pretty much the same. I mean, the idea is like, okay, for a time trial, let's maximize the aero benefit, and usually the result is some ridiculous-looking helmets and gear, like that face sock from a few years back, which subsequently banned, I think. But anything to eke out like an extra quarter of a watt. Seems like they'll do anything.
Was the UCI going to ban the use of the Spaceballs helmet, or I thought that was part of the story.
Yeah, it seems like there's speculation that it probably will be banned. I don't know. I think it's another one of those things where it's like a very striking image, but probably they won't use it for very long. Yeah.
Well, it did get media attention, so yeah. There you go.
Right, all attention is good attention as far as media goes, right?
Yeah. Well, that picture definitely inspired that video that I made. Why you shouldn't ride like a pro.
That was a nice essay. That was like a video essay, and I like the format.
Yeah, completely bombed though. Like it got a 10 out of 10. I was like, womp womp womp.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's hard to tell what will hit home and what won't. But
yeah, I thought.
Go ahead.
I thought it was like a good title and framing. I don't know, maybe I released because I was really excited about the video, and I released it at probably like 3 a.m. in North America, and like it probably didn't get enough like view velocity to get going.
I liked the analogy to the cars. That made a lot that made a lot of sense. It was obvious, but I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah, it is true. Like if you walk into any kind of modern bike shop, and if they were auto shops, like essentially every car on the lot would be an F1 or a pretend F1,
right? Yeah,
Formula 1 racing car.
Well,
not an F1 pickup.
Yeah, the key is pretend, right? Because there's 20 F1 racers in the world, and every amateur racer, is trying to be like that. So. Yeah, I get it. I mean, some people just want to ride a bike or drive a car to take their kids around and run errands and stuff. So I don't know. The analogy landed with me, and probably with the people who watched the video, I would assume.
Yeah, all 8 of them. Thank you for watching the video.
But what's a 10 out of 10 for you? Really, like 10,000 views or something?
It's like. Probably 8,000,
10,000. Yeah, that's still a lot of eyeballs watching.
It is, but it's not very many pennies. That's the problem.
Yeah, no, I get
that. Yeah. All right. So next regretful thing. What else in the news? There's a whole Trek memo talking about how they're going to cut their SKUs by 40% and do some right sizing. Did you watch Bike Farmer's video on that? Have you discovered Bike Farmer yet?
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff, and I saw that you had him on. I didn't catch that one though.
Yeah, I watched his video on that, and that's what kind of got me to try to get him on, because it was his interesting take on it.
Yeah, well, he's very like a realist. He just tells it like it is. Like, zero sugarcoating.
Yeah, I think his channel is going to do well. He's had like amazing growth. I think he's been at it since October, and he's already close to 30,000 monetized, and he'll do well.
Well, the titles. I mean, some of the earlier videos took off just like right away. So I think that was like a really nice head start.
Yeah,
and the concept is cool. Like you see a guy's. It's like sort of your insider view from a guy who works at a shop. And,
let's see. Okay, so should we get into our personal regrets and then start fielding questions? And if you guys, there's 84 of you in the live stream. What are some bike things, bike gear, bike related items that you've purchased and have regretted? Nolan, you go first.
I can start. I'll open up my list here. It's a very long list.
Oh, really? Dang.
Yeah. I've regretted a lot of stuff. Well, and when you pose the question, it just said bike regrets. So I didn't quite know how to interpret that. So some of this is stuff that I bought that I regretted, but also some of it is like just
stuff you did on the bike,
adjacent things. Yeah. Could talk about some of those. we'll keep it start simple with just like items.
Okay.
The first thing that I put, just I don't know off the top of my head, was too much focus on carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, like when I what the arc of carbon fiber in my stable, right, started probably in the early 2000s when it was still carbon fiber was like this relatively new material, and it was like held up on such a high pedestal, and so the regret is just kind of falling into that hype. um, I only got my first carbon fiber bikes recently, like in maybe 2018 is when I got the Santa Cruz High Tower, and then 2020 I got the Diverge. I take that back. I had a Specialized Roubaix in 2018, so those were like the first experiences with carbon. And I don't know. I mean, I think I was excited to get it, but it's taken this much time to realize what was it for really. Like riding a bunch of steel and aluminum bikes now, I really just don't see a ton of benefit other than like you can shape it into like aerodynamic forms more easily. I mean, carbon wheels to me, they still make sense in some applications, but I've been shopping around for an aluminum base Diverge to replace the carbon one because I'm kind of sick of the Future Shock and just having to baby the carbon fiber so much. So.
Yeah.
That's the first one. Top one for me is too much emphasis on getting everything carbon, which
Gotcha.
I imagine you maybe resonate with a little bit.
Yeah. I was one of the videos that I have planned maybe for next week is inspired by our friend Queer Cyclist, and it's bike confessions. So and there's a couple like there's a carbon fiber related bike confession in there, but I think I'll save it until that video.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right, your turn.
Let's see. All right, my first regret. This is like a specific product, and I know it's probably bad form to throw like very specific products under the bus, but I'm going to do it because and it's the Garmin Touring, the GPS. I forget when it was. It was like it was an all white one. It was their like touring specific one, and we were living in Portland, pretty broke, saved up all my money and bought it for myself for my birthday. And the thing was garbage.
This was a GPS computer?
Yeah, it's a GPS computer. Exactly. What made it touring is that it was like they're more sports oriented GPS devices, but they got rid of all the sensors.
Oh, that's strange.
So you couldn't attach a cadence sensor. I don't think you could attach even a heart rate sensor. It's one like kind of touring specific feature is that you can punch in some parameters like I want to do a ride that's 20 miles and all this stuff, and it'll like auto ride it. But it took like 8 minutes to create a route, and it was just had the worst battery life. Didn't have any points of interest, which you'd think would be like essential for like a touring computer,
right?
Its main key feature sucked, and it was like stripped of all the other useful features. And I was so angry with that thing, like
and it costs more, right?
Yeah,
than the typical.
Yeah, every time I turned it on, I just wanted to like throw it down the street. I switched to Wahoo after that. The funny thing is, like, okay, enough time has passed that I bought another Garmin computer, like right before we left to Spain, and it was like the 840 or 850. It's the one without the solar, and even that one's been buggy. It just like I don't know. Maybe I just have bad luck, but sometimes I'll turn it on and it just the touchscreen like is laggy or it locks up, and I have to do a hard reset, and yeah. Well, and that was another thing. Like I bought like full price. I was like, God.
When you lived in Portland, when was that though?
That would have been, let's see, 2012 to 2017.
Oh, okay. So not that long ago.
No, it wasn't ancient.
So I was gonna say, like, the GPS computers in general have come like a really long way over the past like 15 years.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
could have been just at the time like all Garmin computers were kind of crap, but it was pretty recent, sounds like.
Yeah, like, and I was, I wanted to give it a try because it was their Garmin touring model. And it's like, oh, like, they're looking at me.
They're speaking
It's
to
gonna
you.
be rad. Yeah, and it was absolute garbage.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
Speaking of that, have you tried the Hammerhead, the Karoo 2?
I have. Yeah, like I feel like Garmin's probably the most feature rich and generally usable. The Garmin or the Hammerhead has like a really nice interface. It's almost like phone like because I think it's based on like Android, but there are like some really quirky things about it that they still haven't fixed. They used to have this whole like Kaizen mentality where you'd get incremental updates and it would slowly improve. But there are just like some key things that they haven't addressed in, I don't know, in the last like 3 years since I've used it. One of them is like pausing navigation.
Oh, okay. So you can't pause navigation, is what you mean.
So let's say you're going on a ride and then you want to stop and do a quick coffee stop. And then you leave the route. There's no way to say, okay, I still want to do this ride, but I don't want you to be like dinging every 5 seconds. And it just, there's no way to do it without like killing the ride.
I see.
So that seems pretty basic. And another thing is, you can only have one data screen with a map.
Yeah.
So sometimes I like, like a map with, speed and heart rate. Sometimes just a map. There it's like only one map base screen, and these are your options. So
I got you.
By the way, I mean, I think from like using it, the touchscreen is pretty responsive, and but there's just a couple things that they're a little irksome. Are you trying one out or?
No, I've been using the Karoo 2 for since it came out, almost at least a year or two. I've been using it, and I'm really happy with. Like it's surpassed any Garmin or Wahoo that I've tried in the past. I just like how it works. I don't know, it just always works. Like I never really have an issue with it. The map thing. I usually just set it up where I have one screen that's all map, and then I swipe, and then I have all the data. So I just swipe back and forth primarily. Yeah. But I didn't realize you can't have multiple screens with a map on it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But also we do routes that I don't know. I use it mostly to track rides. Like I don't use it as much to explore. So I can't really speak to like, following a route and then wanting to divert and then coming back to it. But
try next time and you'll know the pain of constant reminders.
Yeah. I mean, what I do like is like we'll often stop mid ride, like towards the end of the ride, we'll stop for like lunch or something, grab some lunch and a couple of beers, and we'll still have to ride like 10 miles to get home. But you can just park the bike and it'll put itself into like a semi sleep mode. And then as soon as you start rolling again, it just picks up with where you left off, which I like. I feel like, I don't know, some of the older Garmins that I had, they just shut off and you have to like start a new event or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, tangent. What were we talking about? The crappy Garmin touring.
Yeah. Regrets. Dang it. Yeah.
Well, more products or some more like, I don't know, events and poor decisions rather.
Well, I've got one more product, and then I'll move on from the chips on my shoulders. Still me?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why don't you do 2 in a row? Yeah.
Again, this is like when we were living in Portland. It's the Giro Empire shoes. These are like clicky SPD shoes, and it was marketed as like a good like entry level kind of quasi casual shoe with the SPDs, but it was also like not good. Like it had these rubber, like rubber traction pads, I guess, for lack of a better term, so you can walk around and walk in the mud and stuff. But they just wore down so quickly, and you could replace like some of them, but not all of them. And like by the end of just a couple months, it was like lopsided, and just made me sad. We were really broke back then. So every time I bought something and it didn't like meet my expectations, I just got really angry.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I still do that.
Yeah.
But so you were writing clipless then for a while.
Yeah. Like I'd say for at least, at least 5-7 years. It's not like I've never ridden clipless, and I've always been like a flat pedal elitist. I dabbled with the cleats. Okay. I know about the clicky clackies.
I don't know if it sounds oxymoronic, flat pedal elitist.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And now no more clipless on anything.
Yeah. No. What's funny is like, I wanted to do videos where, I'll test different products and try to do it with some quasi-scientific accuracy using a power meter. Yeah. But there's like one flat pedal power meter, and it costs $1,500.
You got to go crank based, I guess, huh?
Yeah, but like, what if you're testing the cranks or like chain ring combinations? Right. So I did attempt to. A viewer had sent in some Garmin pedals with a power meter, with like the road cleat, and I got the flat pedal to road cleat adapter, and it was a terrible experience because they would, when you stop at a light, they'd flip over, and it just took forever to reflip it over because it was so weighted.
Yeah. Don't they have SPD to flat adapters too?
They do.
Right.
But like at the time, for whatever reason, there was only like 1 or 2 companies making SPD power pedals, and they were pretty expensive. So,
have you heard of the company 4i?
Is that the one that does the strain gauge and the crank arm, or?
Yeah. So you can get just the left side crank arm. You can buy one pre-installed or have them install one for you, and it's pretty affordable. I don't know. I haven't tried one myself, but everything seems like all the reviews seem like it gives pretty accurate data. Yeah. And that'd be convenient because you could just take it off when you don't need it, or just slap a flat pedal, whatever pedals you want on it, and it won't affect the drive side. So you can put different chain rings or whatever on it.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. So crappy shoes.
Okay, your turn.
Yeah, sure. I'm just looking through my list here. I mean, on my list, I've got proprietary stuff. And in parentheses, I have Future Shock. So proprietary stuff in my mind is like this bucket of like really specific things that once, they break, you're on the hook for buying that same thing, and there's no compatibility. But when I really think about it, there's really only one item in that bucket for me, which is the Future Shock suspension system on the Specialized bike. I struggle with it because I think the Future Shock is a good system. It feels really good to ride. Like it does its job well, but I struggle with the proprietary nature of it. And they keep doubling down, like more and more of their bikes coming out with Future Shock. There's a new version of Future Shock now, 3.0. And so it seems like they're gonna keep going with this at least for a while. And I don't know. I took the Future Shock out of my bike. Like I don't ride with it anymore.
And you created a product so others could take out their Future Shock if they don't want to.
I did, yeah. It was that extreme for me. I was like, other people must have this same issue,
right?
So I'm riding it rigid, but it's also like now that there's no Future Shock in it, there's all this extra just material hardware that was designed to, fit the Future Shock. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm almost regretting, again, back to the Diverge, which I like the Diverge. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be carbon, and I don't think it needs to have the Future Shock. So I've actually been shopping around for like a used base alloy Diverge. I want to make a video called "Why I Downgraded My Diverge." I think that would be pretty
that's a good one.
But I got to find a frame first, and it's actually tough to do. So
yeah.
anyways, proprietary stuff, and I know you've probably got some better examples of proprietary stuff.
Yeah, electronic shifting. It's the worst. Don't do it. There is one bike. So I do have like one bike. I wouldn't say it was like I feel like regret is maybe like a strong word, but I had different expectations about the bike and it didn't meet those expectations. And it's not that it's a bad bike. But back in, what's it called? Yeah. Or when I first got into touring, I got a Bike Friday New World Tourist. So it's kind of like a 20-inch. It's not a folding bike, and that's part of the problem. It's more of like a travel bike. And in my head, I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. I can take it touring. I can take it commuting. When I go to the grocery, I'll fold it up and tuck it in the corner or something like that. And that's not what the bike is made for.
Well, is it a
because the fold
bike?
is like it folds. Well, it gets smaller. Let's put it that way. But the way. But in order to shrink it down, it's just this big kind of messy bowl of spaghetti and metal parts. And I found that because of that, I never folded it. It was just a small bike.
That's prior to discovering the Bromptons.
Right. Yeah. I was heavily influenced by this woman named Lynette Chang. She was like an ambassador for Bike Friday for a while. And I was like, she was doing all these awesome world tours on it. And it's great as a touring bike and as a travel bike, kind of like like a bike with a Ritchie breakaway system or something like that. But it's not something that you want to do on a whim, right?
Right. It's a 20. It was a 20-inch wheel.
Yeah.
So was it like what we would now call like a mini velo kind of style?
Yeah, I guess it would be a mini velo. All 20-inch, all folding bikes are mini velos, but not all mini velos are folding bikes. Right. But it had drop bars, bar ends. It's basically set up like a road touring bike, and I just had different expectations for it, or in terms of the fold.
We tried those Dayhan. I remember we used to stock a bike called Dayhan. Does that ring a bell? Like that folded up for its size. It folded up pretty compact. But those, those weren't set up for like any kind of performance. There was no drop bar Dayhan, as far as I know.
Yeah, I used to have a Dayhan touring bike, their TR, and that one kind of just like folded in half. It was pretty nice. Like I think the fold was a lot cleaner than the Bike Friday. Funny enough, though, like I feel like Bike Friday has been rediscovered because of their off-road bike packing bike. I know, like our friend Allie that works at Adventure Cycling totally loves hers, and she took it on a big tour. Joe Cruz Pedaling, I think, has one or took it on the tour for bikepacking.com. So the brand, it's funny to me because like it was like such a nerdy brand, seeing some kind of revitalization. So
that's cool. I haven't heard of the brand, to be honest. I'll have to
really
look it up. Yeah,
they've been around for forever. They're based in Eugene, Oregon. Yeah, they've got some some pure road bikes, some touring bikes. They had a bike called the Ticket, which was supposed to compete with the Brompton. Here you go. Someone mentioned the name, Matt Rhodes, the Alpaca. Yeah, that's the off-road touring Bike Friday.
Cool.
They've just always like flown under the radar. They're kind of like the nerdy dad bike, but they're now they've got some clout again.
Yeah, sounds perfect for me.
Yeah.
Cool. I
Okay.
was going to say, oh shit, what was I going to say? I'll come back to it when I think of it. Yeah, regrets. Regrets. Yeah, what I was going to say is, I don't. Sometimes I regret not being more in the cycling in the community. Like, often I'll feel like an imposter talking to you about certain bikes, certain esoteric brands I've never heard of. That's a regret of mine. I mean, I know a lot about several things, but there's also huge gaps in my knowledge, and so I don't know. I get, but I suppose nobody
no one knows everything,
right?
Like a lot of like the high end performance stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
people. I always get emails since doing all the mullet builds and drivetrain builds. People will always send me compatibility questions.
Yeah.
And then usually like my reply is just get a friction shifter. It'll work. I don't know.
I did a couple of those we were playing around with the GRX mullets a number of different ways. And since then, a bunch of questions. Will this work? Can I mod my SRAM? And all these like very specific questions I just don't know the answer to. So
yeah, it's a black hole.
Somewhat regretful that I can't provide more value.
Okay, I'm going to go to the comments here. Some people have listed regrets.
Okay.
And John P. very early on said, riding 175 cranks. There's some big cranks. You've been on a short crank journey as well as I. How has it been for you?
John, I think you had stated that in the Instagram. And so I put that down on my notes here. I was going to talk about that. 175 is like way too long for me. Like I'm 5'8" on a good day with short legs.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about cranks a while back, and what's hard to me is that like the recommendation is so much shorter than I actually ride now. Like, if I use the crotchometer or one of the calculators, I should be riding like 150 or 155 millimeter cranks or something like that. And like I just can't get myself to go to the actual recommendation. It's like tire pressure, right? Like everyone says like go lower tire pressure, but I still can't bring myself to go that low.
Yeah.
So I always feel like I'm cheating a little bit, or not cheating, but just like not fully embracing the recommendation. I will say going from 170, like a lot of my bikes came with 170 or 172.5. Going from that length to 165 has made a notable difference. Like I like the 165 crank length on the Blackheart. And I can actually tell, like I didn't think I'd be able to tell the difference between 170 and 165, but you can certainly tell. I'd probably like it more if I went 160, but
I
haven't done it yet.
I'm the same way. I've run the calculators and it suggests 155. I think we have similar height and leg dimensions. Yeah. And I bought a 162.5 off of our Discord, and I really liked it. So then I ordered another one, and it was a 160. But I couldn't make that jump until like 155 just yet.
Okay. Yeah, so there's some weird mental block, right? It just feels too. Yeah. But in your video on Cranklick, you actually went to the extreme, right? Didn't you go way too short and it didn't feel right to you somehow?
Yeah, it felt like I was like, it was too weird. I mean, the biggest thing I felt was like the easy gears felt really hard. I mean, maybe over time you'd adapt. But it just, I forget what it went down to. I think it went to like 145. So it was really small.
I mean, at that point, there's a big enough jump where you probably need smaller chain rings or bigger cassette, something like that.
Yeah, I feel like I was pedaling with like just my ankles, small circles with my ankles.
I picture one of those like tiny bikes with the clowns riding the tiny circus bikes.
But it's interesting. I do think like short cranks have entered the chat for lots of people, and lots of channels talking about going 165 or at least less than like 170. So
I mean, the story is always the same. Like we spend so much time and energy optimizing every other parameter on the bike. And up until recently, every bike just came with the same length cranks,
Yeah.
right? So it seemed like a natural step to start messing around with the crank length parameter. I'll predict that
Yeah.
Q factor is going to be the next hotly
It is.
debated.
Well, GCN's been doing a couple of videos on Q.
Oh, have
on
they?
Q. Yeah. And I saw that whoever runs the Renee Earth's Instagram was like, have they been reading Bicycle Quarterly?
Yeah. I mean, these are all parameters that are widely established, but it seems like haven't really been, optimized or explored too much by the average person until recently.
Yeah. So Matt Rhodes here has a specific question for you. Is Bike Sauce IRL engineer? Are any of your coworkers bike nerds?
IRL means in real life, right?
Yes.
Okay. I am. Yeah.
He just plays one on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a act. No, I'm an engineer. Yeah, by training. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of California. My day job is a professor of mechanical engineering at a local university here. So very, very nerdy is what I can say. It's like mostly nerd with like a bike chat. Like, it's a nerd who does bike stuff. It's not really the other way around, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My coworkers are not. I mean, my coworkers are other faculty members, but on campus, I've started in the past few years, I'm doing bike-centric research, which is not like a groundbreaking or hot topic, but like I've got to advise a certain number of capstone projects every year. And up until recently, they're just kind of random projects. Someone wants to build a robot, someone wants to explore some simulations. So I've just kind of consolidated all those into what I'm trying to like push on the department as like the Center for Bicycle Research. But it's been slow going, but it's gaining some traction. So we've got a lot of the cycling engineers all come out of the woodwork and are really excited to work on bike. They're just playing with bikes, but it becomes their engineering senior project. Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun. We're building a drivetrain dynamometer to try and quantify frictional losses through the drivetrain. So, like you see the fancy muck-off one, we're trying to build our own. Working with Renee Hurst a little bit we built a rig to quantify applied load to a tire and measuring the tire deflection. So we can kind of plot those two against each other and kind of quantify the effective spring rate of tires and, explore whether they're linear springs or regressive or progressive. We have another group working on a brake system dynamometer. So I really want to get my hands on those new SRAM Maven. Is it the Maven ones? Like the ridiculously strong downhill brakes. Put those brakes on the on the brake dyno. So yeah, a lot of nerdy stuff, but it's engineering products under the umbrella of bicycles is what we do.
Right. Cool. Let's see. Here's another interesting regret here. Marcel says he regrets the roll-off speed hub. I would love to know more about this because usually whenever I do drivetrain video, it's like, why do you review IGHs or roll-offs or pinions are the most amazing thing ever. So I'd love to hear why someone would regret it other than it leaving a big hole in their wallet.
Maybe it has something to do with the proprietariness of it.
Yeah, they're also. I think they're pretty chunky. Like if I've not ridden one for any extended period of time, but lifting it up, you can definitely feel like the weight in the rear. Let's see. Gravel Bike California, plastic GoPro mounts.
Well, Zach, you've got about 50 on your bike at any given point, so I could see how that might be a problem.
It's a real thing. Like whenever we went out on trips, I'd always carry a spare because it's not a matter of like if they'll break, but when. And it surprises me. Like someone must make an aluminum mount, right? That's less crappy, or does it have to be plastic?
I'm sure. I mean, I think the thought is you'd rather the mount break than the camera. Like if you mount the camera rigidly on an aluminum mount, probably just destroy the camera. But
well, back when I used the GoPro cameras more, I'd have a chesty, and I was constantly popping it on and off to film riding and then doing like a piece to camera, and that's how I would always break the feet.
Yeah.
Now I use a DJI camera, and it's in a Telson magnetic necklace thing. So it gets rid of that mechanical. Yeah, it gets rid of the mechanical. Not sponsored. # not sponsored. It gets rid of the mechanical connection. Because it's just magnets.
I see. When you wear it around your neck and it basically just dangles, but then it's magnetic. How does it stick to your body?
So the neck piece itself is moldable, and it kind of holds its shape because it's like silicone with like some kind of internal wire thing. And I can usually shape it so I can find the position where it's just not like bobbing up and down. It's not as secure as a chesty. That's a compromise, but you look less of a dumbass and it's easier to put on.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll take that compromise of it bouncing a little bit. Stabilization will kind of counteract a lot of that, but it's just a lot lighter and easier than like a full-on chest mount. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a bike camera related regret.
Yeah. Sure.
I had a case where I would gladly have sacrificed the camera. Like I wish the mount broke. But so I was riding along a rail trail. So
I remember.
I'm on a trail between the train tracks and a row of bushes, and I'm trying to get some B-roll. So I've got a selfie stick with the Insta360 camera, and I wasn't holding it at the time. I used to just clamp it to my handlebar because it's easier than holding it. And I had the shot going. It was going good. Everything was fine. You can imagine the bar was kind of, say, 45-degree angle off. So it was sticking out to the right side pretty far. And then, I don't know, a bush came out of nowhere and it grabbed the camera. And I was probably going 20 miles an hour. I don't know. The speed goes up every time I tell the story, but it's going pretty quick. And then in an instant, the bars were gone. Like they had rotated 90 degrees. And I went over, broke my shoulder blade. And I don't know, swearing at myself because why would you clamp a giant stick to your handlebar? Like, don't do that.
I've done that. I managed to not hit the bush. I think we met you like shortly after that happened because I remember you were in a sling.
That's
when
right.
I think we dropped off the Richie Ascent.
Something like that.
At your place. Yeah.
Worst.
Yeah.
Worst. That's probably the worst cycling regret. Yeah. The worst falls I've ever taken on bikes are not related to my skill. They're related to doing stupid things while riding a bike.
I had a similar, just really dumb thing. Like I was reviewing the Rivendell, and I was doing a piece to camera, so riding one-handed, and I was talking about the quill stem, and my dumb ass like removes my other hand from the handlebar and grabs a quill stem, and all of a sudden, boom, just throws me in the bush.
You were trying to steer from it or something?
I don't know what I was doing. I think I was like caught up in the filming and not the riding, and talking about the quill stem, and had no hands on the handlebars, had one hand on the quill stem, and yeah.
Yeah. The footage from that must be hilarious in retrospect.
Yeah. Let's see. Tom Barty here says, one of my regrets is not getting friction shifters earlier. I wasted so much adjusting and getting the shifting right. Amen. Aside from just like the adjustment, imagine like all the mental energy and research it takes to figure out what works with what. It's just like, and then you buy a part and then it doesn't quite work when the internet said it works, or some random Reddit thread. With friction, it's just it always works, especially if you buy the Uno shifter. So go get it. Go get one.
Go pick them up while supplies last. Right?
Yeah, I think they're still out of stock, but
we'll pre-order one.
Here we go. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down to the end here. Someone else writes, Space Cowboy, I regret 5239 cranksets. Those are big ones. Like, I don't know that.
I used to have that combination on my first road bike. I mean, everyone's first road bike probably had that combination. 5239 with a tiny cassette in the back. As a new rider, trying to.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just goes with your last video. Like, there's no need to try and ride what the pros ride if you're not a pro. Like, if you're a beginner, you have no business on 5239s.
Yeah. I had that experience too when I first got into bikes. I bought a couple Craigslist bikes or flea market bikes. I was like, why is biking so hard?
Right.
And then that's also when it dawned on me, like, I'd bring the road bike to a bike shop and say, I want lower gearing. And they're like, oh, you mean mountain bike gearing? I was like, I don't know, just lower gearing, make it easier.
Right.
And to this day, like, my head still breaks. It's like, why is it, mountain bike and road? I mean, there's some steep roads. It should just be like high or low gearing,
Right. Yeah. I think largely it's become that, right? With gravel, like, it's kind of blurred the lines. And so you've got low gears on drop bar bikes, pretty common these days.
Right.
Shout out to Bike Travel. Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Let's see. Alex says, I regret 26 millimeter tired bikes.
Oh,
what's the narrowest tire you've ever ridden on?
I've never ridden 19s. I know they exist. I think 21 is probably the narrowest. I remember distinctly when I first got into road riding, everyone's, the whole mantra is narrower and super high pressure. So I sought out the narrowest tires I could find on purpose. There were some, I forgot what tires they were, but 120 PSI, 21 millimeter tires. Felt horrible, but you thought you were going fast.
Yeah.
I wonder if 26 seems suspect. Did you mean 26-inch bikes?
That's true. I don't know.
26 millimeters doesn't seem particularly narrow or wide.
It's a strange Euro tire. I don't know. I used to ride, when I first got into cycling, 28s. And I feel like there was always a pressure to go narrower from the roadie shops. It's like, right. Those are touring tires. You go so slow on 28.
I know.
Yeah. So let's see. Other comments. Guardian Ironworks talking about short cranks. Just got some Dixonella cranks, 57.5. Can't wait to try them. Yeah, Dixonella cranks are, I think, one of my favorite sleeper cranks to recommend because they cost money, but they're not super expensive, and you can get super short lengths and run doubles. So, and it's Holotech. So,
and they come in silver.
Do
they have black, or are they only silver?
They have black. You can do a black one.
Yeah, interesting. I'm surprised you haven't worked with them directly. This is all purely just based on you found them, you tried them, and you reviewed them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I should get some affiliate links going on.
Yeah, sure.
I told you we are doing a crank project with Mary's Sales though, so hopefully when that comes through, we can recommend those because it's going to be similar, but it's going to have a really cool trick up its sleeve, and it's going to be pretty good value for what you get.
Nice. Yeah, I don't even know about this yet, everybody. So it's top secret.
Let's see. Should we go to questions? On our Discord, there were a couple questions for you, so I'll ask you those.
Sure.
Boothinator from our Discord asks, does Nolan think we'll ever have hydraulic shifting?
Oh my goodness. Here's why I would say no, but obviously you never count anything out. Hydraulic brakes make sense because the mechanical advantage is there, right? If you need to squeeze something really hard, hydraulic makes a lot of sense, right? You also get better feel modulation because it's not a cable, it's like a continuous fluid. Hydraulic shifting, I don't see a need for it, but also that's never a reason to develop something in cycling.
That's true.
I don't think that there's not a design requirement that would suggest trying hydraulic for shifting. That would be my take on it. I don't see it, but I wouldn't count it out.
Do you have any? He has another follow-up question. DOT 5.1 or mineral oil for hydraulic brakes. Like, is there any functional difference between the two?
Yeah, like DOT fluid is the same stuff they use on automobiles, right? DOT fluid is it's got some properties that make it better for extreme conditions, like extremely high heat or extreme pressures, as far as I understand. Mm-hmm. Not something we usually even approach in the cycling space. So honestly, I can't stand. Actually, some of the SRAM brakes are moving to mineral, as far as I understand. But for the most part, SRAM brakes are DOT fluid, and that's one of the reasons I don't like using them. There's nothing wrong with mineral oil in a bicycle application, right? There's no compression. Like the fluid is not being compressed. There's no difference in terms of lever feel. I just see no reason to use DOT fluid in bikes. It's caustic and corrosive and just generally bad.
Yeah. Let's see if there are any other questions here. Mr. Appaloosa on our Discord says, "Why no more Adreno bike sensors?"
There are actually. I've just put all that work on my students. So
okay.
Anytime
so you have to sign up for a class.
Well, it's been on my list of things to do to kind of disseminate some of the work that we do. Because, once the students finish a project, they write up their report. There's a symposium at the end of the year. They have to present their work. But after that, it kind of just goes away. So I think I've been toying with the idea of starting something where we can just put all of the cycling research out there, which it's just tough. It all just takes time and effort. It's another thing to manage.
Yeah. So
sensors, Arduino measurements are still in full swing. I've just kind of outsourced to my students.
Nice. So so apparently Rotor has hydraulic shifting. I had a vague memory of someone doing it for, I don't know why.
Yeah, what's the benefit? Like, I can't even imagine what the marketing would be. Yeah, what is the marketing for hydraulic shifting?
It's a pain in the butt. No one else makes them, so you have to continue to buy our parts. So.
There's no benefit. It doesn't require that much force to move a chain from one cog to another.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got some other questions here. John Pravada, this is in the community post on our YouTube, asks, converting old 90s mountain bikes for bike packing, yes or no? And any do's or don'ts? I mean, I think, yeah, you can do it if you want. I think for me, I always get questions about why I don't do more stuff with 90s mountain bikes. A lot of it was availability, like in Missoula, and that's a lot of its availability here in Spain. But also, I just never got on with the fit for 90s mountain bikes. A lot of them have to get them in a comfortable position, I really have to get some kind of high-rise stem or some bar with a lot of rise in them. For whatever reason, they're all fairly aggressive, and you have these ridiculous stems, and I don't know.
Yeah, the stack is always crazy low on bikes. Partially because they're all 26-inch, but also just the frame design, I think, too. And you could just run a taller fork, I suppose, but then you mess around with other elements of the geometry. Your cranks, the bottom bracket raises and you have less drop and all that. So, yeah, I've played around with some 90s mountain bikes, but that's more just for fun, like around town kind of local trails kind of. I've never done any bike packing on a 90s bike.
Yeah. I mean, they're a good platform to do it. If you have a triple, definitely more than low enough gearing, but it's really the fit. If you can get to fit your body or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any questions or regrets on your community's end?
I think I got to most of them. Let's see, let me pull it up.
I've got one here about cable actuated disc brakes. What's the best budget cable actuated disc brake for road or touring? Parentheses. No, Rotax are not in my budget. I'd say just don't order pizza for like 6 months and still get the Grotax. Because the jump between, what would be low to middle, I mean, they're all fine. To the braking of the Grotax is noticeable and worth the money.
Yeah.
Right. Would you agree? Or
100%. Like, in fact, that's one of the projects I proposed to my students. So I've got a group of students. Like the pitch to the students was mechanical disc brakes exist on a huge spectrum. There's really cheap, kind of not so great ones, and then really expensive, like not custom, but like CNC machined ones. And there's really nothing in between. So there's definitely a gap there. Students are working on what it would take to produce a middle ground, like where the performance is there, but doesn't have to be so boutique and expensive. I would say the best thing you can do for a lower end mechanical disc brake is to focus on the housing and the cable that you use.
Or bigger rotors.
Bigger rotors, yeah. On the Poseidon bikes that I was testing a year ago, I mean, it's a budget bike and they all use mechanical, like low end mechanical disc brakes. And out of the box, the braking it's not awesome, right? It'll stop you, but it's not great. And so, the only change I made was replacing the housing with compressionless, high quality compressionless and like a slick inner cable. And that was enough to like just night and day difference between the braking. So I would say if you're going to go like the budget route on mechanical brakes, spend, reserve a good chunk of your budget for cables and housing.
Yeah. Of the non-Grotac Paul mechanical brakes, what do you like? Spires, BB7s?
Yeah, go ahead.
Those seem to be the two that people, gravitate towards.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I just, from my personal experience, I felt like the Spires are a little bit overrated. Like people really like them, but I didn't feel like they were that great, me personally. And then the Avid stuff, the BB7s, you're talking about the Avid kind of low end Avid brakes. For some reason, I just like the way those feel a little bit better. Like something about maybe it's a little bit lighter spring action. They feel decent to me. So.
Yeah, I've had the Spires on a couple of bikes, and on one bike they're absolute trash.
Oh, really?
And I'd asked our Discord and why that was the case, and someone had said that they're optimized for a certain amount of cable pull, and like newer Shimano brake levers, like 11 speed, aren't that. So it could be brake lever dependent. Because I kept the Spires and used it with some flat bar brake levers, and it felt great. But for some reason, 11-speed Shimano just wasn't doing it. And then for BB7s, they're fine. I hate changing pads on BB7s. Like I feel like I need to bust out the tweezers and like a loop to try to make sure the pad and the spring clip are in there right. So, or maybe I just suck at putting pads in.
Okay. about the someone's going to bring up the hydraulic cable actuated hydraulics because those are relatively affordable, I guess, right?
Yeah.
The Juntex?
Yeah, the R7s or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are great.
They're pretty good, I think, in my experience. I tried them on the Poseidon Norton. I think the biggest thing they provide is a little bit better feel, but the outright stopping power is still not like incredible, in my opinion.
I agree. They feel great. They feel like hydros, but like the Grotax are noticeably stoppier.
Okay.
That's an engineering term, right? Stoppier.
Stoppier, yeah. Stoppier. They're my favorite mechanical disc brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that includes. I think that includes the Paul. I mean, they're very, very close, but I think for the money, the Grotax are actually significantly cheaper than a full Paul setup. So,
yeah, I agree. Let's see what other questions are there. Logan.Andrew4459 asks, who makes a high quality alloy 26-inch rim brake rim these days?
Oh, geez. I don't know.
Velocity, maybe. They used to make 26 inchers. I mean, I had a pair of Velocity Aero Heats in 26-inch when I went touring with my 26-inch long haul trucker back in the day. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Probably, yeah, or go custom.
Yeah, if anyone knows of someone that still makes 26-inch rim brake rims, Velocity blunts, those are big ends, right? Those are pretty wide, so you'd have to be running some fat meats.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that's quick release too, like with the 135 hub spacing.
Yeah. What else? I have another question here. Is Microshift sword shifters compatible with 7, 8, 9 speed front and rear derailleurs? Probably no. Would be my guess. Well, I don't know. Do you know what cable pull? Are they like the 2-to-1/1.7, or are they closer to 1-to-1?
I don't know. I don't actually know the numbers off the top of my head. I do know Microshift Sword is compatible with Advent X. Those are cross compatible. And so if you know anything about Advent X pull ratio, it should apply to Sword as well.
Yeah, I think I've tried Advent X on a Rivendell friction shifter, and it wouldn't pull it across. So it was probably like a newer 1-to-1, maybe. I don't know. I have to go back through the Cave of Bad Ideas archive.
Well, there's one comment in our Instagram from Mateo. It just says GRX 400 instead of 600, but that kind of touches on like another, not regret, but just like a concern where I don't think it's worth it to buy top shelf stuff. Like you don't need to go Durace if you're not a pro.
Yeah.
But I do think there is some value in spending a little bit of money and not going totally bottom of the barrel. Right. So the GRX 400, referring to the lowest entry point of the GRX line, is a 10-speed setup. Whereas if you had gone to GRX 600, you get 11-speed, and it's just a little bit nicer. And probably if you're getting into cycling, you might be on a budget. You might be just exploring if this is for you. In that case, yeah, maybe just try, cheap stuff. But if you have any intent to go into cycling semi-seriously, or at least on a hobby basis, it's worth it. I think there's always this I think of every product line where there's some optimal point of value per dollar, and usually it's not at the bottom, it's somewhere in the middle. So
and the Durace stuff delaminates apparently.
Right.
So
Durace. That's not the first time I've heard that. Somebody came in to the bike shop. I remember one of the first months that I was working in a shop, someone came in and asked about Dirachi, like in earnest, like earnestly, and everyone was confused. Like, what are you talking? Yes, they thought it was like an Italian thing. Yeah, you know the Italian Dirachi. And then at the same time, everyone realized, oh, you mean Dura-Ace. I was like, all right.
Did they watch? Was it a viewer of my channel by any chance?
No, this was in like early 2000s, so there was no YouTube.
Okay, yeah. Because I have had when I was at the Maid Show, like Igor was like, for this video, can you don't call it Velo Orange? Just because they've had a lot of people like just go up, oh, you're Velo Orange. I think he's kind of over it.
Well, it's funny because I think for a lot of us, we heard of the company through you, like through your channel somehow.
It is very like their logo is very French looking, so
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
just own it, Velo Orange.
But for the record, it is Velo Orange.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, for the normies,
Yeah.
Velo Orange.
For those of us who are uninformed.
Right. Okay, going off the rails. We're at 106. We got 178 people in the chat. Thank you for joining us, for hanging out. I think if you're in North America, it's still morning time. If you're in the EU, it's getting close to dinner. So I gotta get cooking.
Sure.
So thanks again, Nolan. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep.
Do it again.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. Good night, everyone, or good morning, and keep the supple side down. Bye.